Lolita, it's good to see you. In our last conversation, we kicked around in the shallows of how anxiety shows up in organisations and people. We thought we'd continue that conversation and use something very timely, something that's happening at the moment, which is the impact of the COVID virus on our working worlds.
Yes, I think that's a fantastic and timely topic, which I don't know how much in your part of the world, in Australia, how much panic or anxiety that is created. Definitely seeing a lot of that anxiety, panic, fear in Hong Kong.
So just for the purposes of the viewing public, I'm based in Sydney and you're clearly based in Hong Kong.
Yes.
So we're sort of, Australia is of Asia, sort of in that region.
Yes.
So I think we were sort of chewing the fat earlier, we were talking about, well, this is clearly an anxiety-inducing global event. And it's interesting because it's, obviously it's hugely impactful globally, and particularly in Asia, without any definition to it. So it's hard to say, and this is when it will end, and these are the outcomes. So I think the question we had in our mutual mind was, okay, so if you're living in that, we are both living in that world, what steps can you take as an individual to really to tolerate or to think about, to rationalize that impact of the world, of that anxiety that's coming out?
Yeah, I think you mentioned a key point, which is we don't know when this will end, and that uncertainty creates a lot of panic in our brain, where the amygdala is hijacked, or it's under attack, and emotionally we feel very unsafe. And therefore, what can we do to manage our anxiety, not probably eliminate it, because that probably is much more difficult. So some things which we could do is, we are these days very well connected. Connected in WhatsApp, LinkedIn, Facebook, and many other forms of social media. We are all possibly part of many group chats. And as much as we make sure that most of us make sure that we avoid the noise and don't believe every chat or every story that's put up, because of being so super connected, and because of even the filtered noise that is created around us, we tend to react. Simple thing, toilet paper shortage in Hong Kong.
I noticed that.
Yes, we have probably become the laughing stock, and it is a reality though. 2 days back, I was going to the gym, and I saw one of the supermarkets on my way. The delivery truck was offloading things to be taken inside the supermarket, and I saw tissue paper, the tissue rolls. And I said, oh, wow, there's tissue rolls. And I didn't have any. I mean, I literally had, the one I was using, there was no more left, because I typically buy once a month or something like that. And I said, oh, I need to not hoard, but at least get one, and now's a good time. So I decided to stop on my way, check the time. I said, I have enough time for the gym. Let me go on the way and check it. And they said, no, we cannot give you now. We'll give it to you later, because we have still not taken stock of it. By the time I come back from the gym and I decide to go, it's already being rationed out. Only one toilet roll per person, and nothing more than that. And this whole tension started off with somebody making some assumption and putting it on WhatsApp or some form of social media, and that created a ripple effect. And the ripple effect is now, you may think, is not only on individuals, but people who are on a work day having tension about, oh, let me call my maid, or let me send whoever is at home to go and collect or buy toilet rolls. And there's also anxiety of in Hong Kong, where people are managing in probably 500 square feet or 400 square feet, and both the partners or the spouses or the girlfriend, boyfriend are working from the same space. And that feels claustrophobic.
Yeah.
So I think one of the ways to manage would probably be to ask ourselves, yes, I need to be street smart. And yet, how much am I going to react to all of this noise around me? Because if I'm going to react to every noise around me, I'm not going to be in a better position.
Yes.
And I would extend that further and say, what's the current situation? How would I like the desired situation to be? Now, some of those who are hearing this may say that the desired situation is for the coronavirus to go away. Yes, we don't have control over that. And yet, what I mean by desired situation is asking ourselves, where do I function best? What kind of state of mind and emotional self do I function best? And how best can I create that situation around me which is within my control?
Yeah, yeah. Not just yielding to the waves of stuff that comes through, particularly in that social media world. It's very compelling, and it does. I think the seductive power of social media is it does feel that definition of what is real and what isn't is it's as we've seen globally, that's hard to determine. And I think that idea of it. What I think something that comes to mind when you're talking about that is that idea of yes, it's a big thing. There's a concept called catastrophization, which is some people can have a tendency towards it. If this happens and this, and oh well, that means that, and then this, and then it's all huge. And I know sometimes in my world I'll go from something to gosh, and that then means everything is complicated and big. Managing to take a step back and say, okay, right, let's just find a way to step away from that view of it's all terrible and come back to the perspective of the things you can control. I mean, it's interesting you talk about people working together in a space. We're a very interconnected workforce now. There are virtual teams around the world. That's probably something for how many teams have I worked in when I've had teammates in Singapore and Hong Kong, China, the UK. That idea that if my teams are working in those regions are working together and they're working from home, that the idea of home is potentially very different. There's space available to you both. You can't assume that you have perhaps more space. Some of the Sydney places are a bit more spacious. We're in the country. You have a bit more space too. What that does is having a moment to appreciate the person at the other end that you're working with might be coping with a further set of complexity. Shifting the perspective, I think, is what I'm trying to say. It's very easy to sit in it and think, oh gosh, this is, just worry about me. But actually there are other people coping with the impact, the wider implications on themselves, which may be different to your own life experience.
Absolutely. And I what you say resonates with me so much because typically when we are anxious, most of us tend to probably think about ourselves, and we become possibly displaying more narcissistic qualities or behaviors. And yet, from my own experience and from clients I've coached, from their experiences, I've seen that when you in that stressful, vulnerable, anxious moment, when you reach out to others and connect with others in that vulnerability, a connection is made, a relationship and a rapport is built, and we actually tend to feel better and less anxious.
Interesting, right? Isn't it?
Yeah. And so all it takes is just, instead of literally responding every time on an autopilot mode to our anxiety and what's going on with our head, probably just drinking a glass of water, cooling ourselves down and asking, hey, as an example, Andrea, how is life with you at your end? You know, there have been so many bushfires happening. Has that impacted you? And just that connection itself will just make someone feel a tad better. Because they feel that there is support coming from somewhere else.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And the
opportunity to vent out. If, let's say, I've had a really bad day and I'm literally tearing my hair apart, when you ask me that question, it gives me an opportunity to vent out, and maybe that's all I need.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's an interesting point, the idea of giving people the space, perhaps just to express some of this stuff. There isn't necessarily a resolution, but being heard and having somebody give you that time, I know how valuable that is for me. And I don't necessarily need fixing. So that's something to bear in mind, I think, in this we're talking about something very real that's impacting so many people. When we set up this time to talk, we thought we'd think about a topic you mentioned last time, which was the idea of appreciative inquiry. I think what we might do is, we were very taken by the impact of that idea of anxiety and a real world event. So we talked about that today. I think what we might do is we will pick up on the appreciative inquiry in our next call. So thank you for that discussion. I think we live in, as ever, interesting times, and it's an example that, whilst we think we can control lots of stuff, actually, there are lots of things that are out of our hands. But what we can do is perhaps think about our reactions.
Absolutely. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you.